We're ready to make a big platter. Of course, we use a large chunk of clay. The bat is so big that we use that the splash pan system won't work. By the way, you can make your own bat system by going to any countertop company that's making countertops for cabinets and so forth. And a lot of times you can get the leftover Formica countertop from them for free, and then you can cut your own bat. Of course, there's holes on the back that fit over the bolts on the wheel head. Now, when we're dealing with bigger clay, because we need a larger chunk of clay to make this platter, control is even more important. My left elbow is very firm on my leg, and as I push this clay down from the top, my left hand holds that clay in place to help get it centered. And you may not necessarily see my elbow, but my elbow on my left leg is extremely important to send control to my hand. Once you have the clay centered, the next thing to do is to flatten it out. The right hand with my elbow up will push down, and my left hand yields to that pressure. And we're basically flattening the clay into a disc by pushing down and then pushing outward. Now, when I make a platter, because I want to have a distinct foot system on the back, I tend to make the platters very thick initially. And so if we were to take a needle tool and push through, I make the platter almost an inch thick. Also, while I have my needle tool out, I see a couple of air bubbles. It's usually at this stage where I'll actually poke holes in those air bubbles. So when I draw my hands over those areas, the air escapes. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just slowly working the clay back and forth to create a subtle shape on the inside of my platter. I like the platter to slope from where the lip will be to the center. So if we had liquid on the platter, it would slowly go into the middle and puddle in the middle. That's my preference. I have a wooden rib in my hand, which works very nicely as a smoothing aid. Which allows me to get this very subtle slope. Now we've basically achieved the inside slope that I'm looking for, and now I'm ready to deal with the lip of my platter. And by looking at the outside, it's a little over an inch thick. I'm going to compress this lip, and I'm going to undercut it. So basically what I did is I organized the clay on the lip by compressing and containing it. And now I'll be able to actually pull this clay outward and upward slightly to create shape and more depth to the platter as it comes to the outside. So when we come to the lip, the lip of the platter slopes up even more to work as a container for the food that you'll put in. I also like to use a metal rib to create shape on these forms. Every potter approaches this a little differently. I tend to use the wooden rib where I need more force, and I tend to use the metal rib where force is not as important, but where I want to focus more on smoothing the surface. A couple final little shaping maneuvers. I'll make sure that the lip is smooth. I'm ready to cut the platter free. I'll use this tool and make a little notch underneath. That will help my wire tool track underneath the platter. Now, for most things that you cut, you may start on this side. This is difficult because it's hard to see what your wire is doing. So, with a platter, I'll start my cut next to me. I keep the wire down, I keep it tight. When I reach the center portion of the platter, I'll stop the wheel, let the wire come around, and then I'll continue my cut toward myself. And now it's cut free. I will dry this platter very slowly to prevent cracking, and then I will turn it upside down and trim the foot or base at which point I'll be removing a larger portion of the bottom clay, and it'll also, that process of trimming will also give the platter more lift.